Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager, episode 110. Just a few weeks away from the release of F1 Manager 23. Therefore, we've got to keep moving and fast. Jack Doohan now an 84 to match Porsche. Of course, they have finally flipped that script. Porsche always had more potential, but started a little behind Jack Doohan. He's finally overtaken him, but now, for the time being, they are both at an 84 overall, which pretty sure that's definitely better than what we had with Albon. When Albon left the team, he was a, 82, 83 when he left the team, and we've finally overtaken that. Of course, there's a new development system coming in for F1 Manager 23, so I'm curious to see how that's going to go, and if it's going to be a little more rapid with the young drivers to catch up. This time we had a vote for a minor technical change. We voted against the change, but only 2 other teams agreed with us, and therefore it's going the other direction. I wanted the cooling to be the main focus of the change, where airflow was the one I preferred not to have. Everybody else voted on the airflow part. So airflow is going to take a 30% reduction and cooling a 10% reduction in the next year. That airflow part's going to hurt us definitely more. Last year at Emilia-Romagna, we had a 1-3 finish. It's where our season was starting to take off. We were starting to get some control and move up the standings. I think we had possibly entered this race in 3rd or 4th position, and then came out of it in 2nd, something along those lines, as we were finally starting to progress. We finally had gotten the car caught up enough to those top teams that we were able to start getting results. And here we just beat Verstappen to the win, with Jack Doohan comfortably ahead of the chasing pack, behind him a little over a second beyond them, but way behind those top 2 drivers.
The hills of Tuscany are green to the south, but here in Imola the air is red hot. Welcome to Ferrari's turf for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. The track has been around since the 60s, but the first official Formula One race was held here in 1980. Let's see what excitement lies ahead this year. This is Imola, and it's an old school track with plenty of elevation changes and lots of corners. There's only one DRS zone here, but it follows the long straight right before Tamburello and should see plenty of action. We have beautiful blue skies overhead as the drivers line up on the grid. Here's Williams. They're in pole position, and they've got to be happy about that. All eyes are on the race here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
All right, we are racing. Simple one-stop strategy here. I'm not even going to be pushing for very long. I haven't turned the battery up this time compared to normal. Doohan has already pulled ahead. Porsche has now pulled into P2 comfortably, and we're just going to settle in. Here's the thing about this race. It's going to make this one more challenging, potentially, than the other races we've had this season, besides where we've had a safety car pull the field back together. As we see a huge mistake right behind us with Verstappen. Verstappen straight into the wall there after a lockup. Is he going to be out of the race, or is he going to be able to continue? We don't seem to have any major warnings coming up, so I have a feeling it's just going to be a wing replacement on that one, but it's going to ruin his day. From 3rd to last place, and he'll be quite a ways behind. And just local yellow, yeah, he's already moving again. Here's the challenge that I'm facing today that is definitely different as Verstappen comes back out half a lap down.
DRS enabled.
I have not, and by now I should have, I have not rotated to our 2nd set of components. So we still have the original engine, we still have the original gearbox and electronic system as well, but that certainly lasts longer. You only get 2 of those for the year. But on those other 2, they're getting pretty high on the wear and tear. I decided to go another race because I don't see why we could or should have to take penalties And the main reason for that, despite these used components on the car, we are still about 7/10. Ah, there's our big lockup from Dewin. Dewin has not hit the wall though, but he's gonna rejoin in last place waiting. Really, he's just gonna sit and sit and sit and sit and come back out in 19th.
Now we see.
Wow, Dewin from first.
Goodness me.
Okay, we got the challenges on, and he's only got a more slight advantage this race than what he's going to get in others. So for now, Pourchaire is pulling away 3 seconds ahead. Dewin rejoins over 4 seconds behind, and last as the field was so bunched up. It's only lap 6 now. He has caught up. We'll see, can he start progressing with DRS, or is he going to need other aids? We'll give him a couple laps to see if he can make some passes. For now, he is not even able to get around Latifi. Let's see if putting the overtake on will help. Yes. Okay, he progresses pretty quick with the overtake. Just the battery alone gets him forward. Let's slow it down a little bit and get in there and see what's going on with Dewin. We already left that group behind 1.8 seconds ahead, so he's passed 4 cars. And let's switch it up here by going aggressive. Let's see if that's enough to challenge the McLaren. And it looks like it is as we get up beside him and get that overtake done. P14. Another McLaren just ahead of us. 4-second gap to the next group, so Dewin can make progress without having to go crazy. It's not having to turn all 3 things up. Multiple cars have crashed. Yellow, sector 2. Yellow flag, local yellow. Lock up on the inside, and then they just come together. Wheel to wheel on that one. Good chance that they can both continue, and it looks like they will. Stroll picks up the penalty after he locks up, hits Mick Schumacher. And they are down to 18th. 19th was behind me where that happened, so it actually didn't even improve our position as we remain at P14. P14, let's go aggressive again. We get minor gains here. And back to standard. We should be able to drive away from these guys fairly easily. Already 967. Over a second away from Bottas, so we get out of DRS zone quite quickly. We're a team that treats our drivers equally, and Dewin has got something drivable. We don't overly favor one over the other, but that gap that was 4 seconds is already down to 1.5. Local yellow, and cars are starting to pit. Pit window is opening for those who are going for the 2-stopper, I suppose. And Dewin making an overtake without anything turned up. Nicely done there. And we're beyond Albon. For now, that's up to P9, but that's cars that are pitting. Okay, I think we can hang in here. We've got the DRS. Yellow flag. We got a yellow flag. Not sure who or what. Somebody has locked up. Piastri has a penalty. Ocon locks up, but Piastri gets a penalty. Not sure how that one worked.
Just a bit too heavy on the brakes, and they've locked up.
Lucky to be able to rejoin.
And the team had such
we sat forever, even though we had a similar gap. He really lucked out there, unable to. Oh, and then Dewin gets held up by whatever is going on here. Piastri. Run. Magnuson not getting DRS, which is slowing the train down a little bit, but Guan Yu Zhou challenging him and comes over and blocks us, and I heard a lift there. We got out of it a little bit, but he tucks back in, and because he got out of it a little bit, it allows us to get up beside him. So there's already a challenge for Guan Yu Zhou, and we're able to squeeze up beside Magnuson and then run wide. And we have minor underfloor damage. Was that a mistake? Or was that getting out of the way because we tried to squeeze up beside Magnuson and then Magnus, we run wide, is what it claims. It's hard to tell whether that was reactionary to Magnuson getting awfully close, but that's going backwards, losing 3 positions, but of course that's not really losing 3 positions, it's losing 1. We were in the midst of a double overtake. We had it for a fraction of a second, and we go down, bam, 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 behind the train there. So unfortunate. Pit window's coming up, by the way, but I'd still like to progress before the pits, and we definitely don't want to be pitting in traffic. Pourchaire has no issues with that. He is in a land all of his own, and actually okay, we should be getting in some, by the way, the minor gearbox wear kicks in. That was not from going over that rumble strip. We did get minor floor damage. I'm going to wait 1 lap longer for Pourchaire. There we go. Battery is fully charged. Back to neutral. And we're going to save. We're going to save it now. We're going to go aggressive. And nothing else. Just using tires. I'm planning on pitting next lap. Now, in terms of traffic, Giovinazzi, Albon are both close. Gasly, Magnussen, and Zhou. That's 6 cars. I would not be surprised if at least 1 pits on the next lap. 1 pits this lap, and Giovinazzi behind us. So 2 have pit. Oh, come on, you gave up. Did you hear that lift? He had him and then decided to tuck in instead. Moment later, though, pulls back out, gets around Zhou. For the moment, we're up to P4. But it is our end lap here. Go ahead and go deploy.
Full deploy.
That's Russell ahead of us, 3.5 seconds up the road. Norris still up there. Others have already pit, so we will be coming back out in traffic. We will be coming back out down the order ways, but with a good end lap. Where we've made, what, 2 overtakes? And went pretty dang fast, I'm hoping. Guan Yu Zhou also in the pits. We'll change our angle and see what happens with Guan Yu Zhou, who is already there in front of us. Let's go, 2.6, and we get out, no hesitation, and we keep the position ahead of Zhou. That's good. That is very good. And we're going to come back out in what looks like P11 with Leclerc coming. But we are going to get Leclerc right away. That's important. We've got a pretty big gap between us and that next group ahead. Remember, we got held up, and not everybody was held up, or some guys pit early and got out of that mix. So neutral. There you go. So do it. Now 11th. Let's watch the overall. Wow, minute 9 behind Pourchaire. Minute 9 behind Pourchaire, who has not pit yet. I forgot about him. Pit this lap.
Box.
Come ride with Pourchaire. We'll check back in with Doohan. Doohan, meanwhile. Engine at 54%, gearbox now at 39%. I don't think it was that low. I don't think it was that bad. I do think he might have, when he got that minor underfloor damage, hit that curb and caused that. Just 8 seconds, 6 seconds behind. We were a full pit stop ahead, so that is just how far Pourchaire has gone with this one, and absolutely no reason for him to push, by the way, for comparison. 56, 42. Okay, so it is just standard gearbox wear. This is why our pace is not so significant over everybody else today, but we are, cruising along. Absolutely just cruising along. So Pourchaire leads, already back out to 6 seconds.
Stonking now.
And meanwhile, Dewitt just set the fastest lap. So checking back in with him. How are things looking here? Piastri, 3 seconds behind. 2.5. 2.5, 3 seconds behind. Piastri got around Leclerc with fresh tires, doing their trick. What is Leclerc? Leclerc just pit a lap earlier. That's confusing that he had that kind of pace and ended up where he was. But we are chasing these guys. And everybody else in front. Looking at, there's your only ones that have pit. So Verstappen has pit already. I'm not sure. Remember, early in the race. Very early in the race, while he was running third place. Hit the wall, damaged the wing. That was his pit stop. And that's why he's back here in P10. And going to need to pit again soon. Perez, Ocon have already pit. Will pit a second time, and these guys have not pit. Which means Doohan is already into a virtual P2. Other than maybe Norris. Might be more of a virtual P3 with the kind of gap we're talking about. Yeah. Russell, Gasly, Albon. Those guys might, if they pit now, they might still come out ahead. So I'd say more of a virtual P6 right now. Virtual P6 on the verge of a virtual P3. So do it, just running normal. Just running our pace. We're only 2 seconds ahead of Piastri. Piastri's pushing pretty hard. Pourchaire just set a new fastest lap. You've got the pace. Do not be re-overtaken by this guy. Even if he's in the second fastest car. He's on very used tires, and Piastri has caught up. 6 tenths, 7 tenths, 8 tenths to Verstappen, 9 tenths to Verstappen, over a second behind. There you go. Got what we needed there. And we are now catching Perez and Tsunoda, who's not far behind Ocon and Sainz. It's almost a group of 4 cars, but kind of paired up, 2 and 2. And Verstappen peels off into the pits. Of course, he waits till he's overtaken, so we have to go through the trouble of overtaking him, lose some ground. But we're back out to 1.9 ahead of Piastri and already in DRS of Perez and Tsunoda. Let's go ahead and charge that battery up once again before we try to navigate getting around these two who are on very used mediums, right? No, Tsunoda is not. He's on used hards, and Perez on the used mediums. Those guys are about to fall below that 60% and lose some pace here, making that overtake that much easier when the time comes. And Piastri, here he comes. He's coming fast. Pourchaire back out to a 15-second lead over Norris. Still has yet to pit. Russell at 33. Norris is 35 seconds ahead of Doohan, but has yet to pit. Okay, battery's good. Let's not get challenged by Piastri. We need to go forward. Try to ride on board. Hopefully we don't see somebody slot up next to us here with Piastri. There we go. Up the outside on Perez. And then with DRS down the straight just after that, we're going to complete the second overtake. Really good job there by Doohan. Much better than what we've seen from him today. Standard, neutral, and away we go. Already nearly catching up to those two. Gap was pretty minimal anyway. And more than a second ahead of them. Yeah, 1.6. And there you go. Just like that, half a lap later, in DRS on Ocon and Sainz. Can do and make it back to a P2 all the way from 19th. There's those 3 cars into the pits, and we are up to P3. Norris pits a lap later.
So be mindful of that.
Copy.
Perez with the lockup. Norris in the pits. How far behind? He's already moving. He's already moving as we begin the straight, cross the start-finish line, and he's coming out of the box. Will we even see him? Not quite. He is just out of sight up ahead. I just spotted him after the chicane here. We are very much in between. Piastri is now comfortably P4, by the way. But we are 8 seconds ahead of Piastri, so that's good. And those other guys, Russell, are behind Leclerc, behind Piastri. They would have to overtake them to come and challenge us, which means I don't think we're going to have to worry about looking behind us. Don't think that's going to be a problem. But we are a good 6 to 7 seconds behind Norris, who is on brand new mediums, and we're on 70% used hards. That's going to be a hard ask. 0.7 of a second faster, but brand new mediums are probably going to be a good 0.7 a second faster than what we offer. So keeping an eye on our gap to Norris. I would imagine he'll be up to temperature here shortly. He's coming around completing his first lap, and we are at 5.6. So watching from 5.6, let's go ahead and speed things up and see. I might have to lift and coast at some point also, as we're down to 15 laps. It's now 6.1. So it's going out. He's actually managing to pull away from us. He's gained 1 second already. He's gained 1 second on us with those new mediums. Looks like we might have a 1-3 finish, folks. 9 seconds behind. Doohan's going the wrong direction and has absolutely nothing to... we can't push fuel. We can't push battery. Can't really push tires much either. And the gap's going the wrong direction. Norris, remember, we are carrying damage and a very weak gearbox that started the race okay, but is now in a damaged range. And we just don't have the pace. We have pulled away from Piastri, but not Norris. So for the first time this season, we are facing the prospect of losing, sort of. We still get the race win, but a 1-3 instead of a 1-2. I think that's the first time this season, right? We've had a 1-2 in every race so far. Yellow flag, yellow flag, yellow flag. Somebody's crashed. Porsche sets a new fastest lap.
Sounds like there's been a crash.
Latifi with the crash on turn 7. We're not
laps
going
to
to
go.
bother with that. He's very much at the back of the grid and just had to pit. So no impact. Doohan holding at 9 seconds. And we have a positive delta. Lap 62. Final lap.
Last lap, last lap.
Go and ride with Porsche.
We could do with a bit more pace now if we've got it.
Doing 8.8 down.
Copy.
You know what? Just cruise, bud. Just
Can
cruise.
afford to drop back.
Almost a lap down for Doohan.
Copy.
55 seconds ahead for Norris. Doohan started to close that gap down a little bit. He's gained 0.3, but you know, the 5 seconds he lost, or 4 seconds he lost, while only overcoming 0.3
They've
shows
gone wide.
just how slow he is. Oh, we just lapped another. That was Piastri. Piastri runs wide. We just lapped Piastri. I didn't see him run wide there,
Second
but
flag.
okay. 3 cars on the lead lap. At least Doohan managed to stay on the lead lap. But Porsche absolutely dominates this one, and Doohan 9 seconds back. Yep, he'll bring it home in third. 2 big mistakes cost him dearly. The first one, obviously the biggest. From 19th, we were recovered to third.
We're in the state of year-round summer. It's the Miami Grand Prix, and we're here in Florida at the Miami International Autodrome. The streets of Miami Gardens will come alive with the roar of racing, and the excitement is only just beginning. Quite a few clouds overhead as we look at the lineup on the grid. Williams here. They're starting today at the head of the pack, but will they be able to stay there? And looking at the second Williams car. They're in second place on the grid, but that could so easily change in the first few seconds of the race. One of the newest
Second straight pole position from Doohan. We're going for a 2-stopper of hard medium, which means the start is a little more difficult. Porsche struggles offline. I'm not even pushing. It's starting to get lazier and lazier with things to try to speed things up. But here's what's going to end up having to happen. We're going to have to start going 3 races per episode to get anywhere near the end of this season before long. Already 8 tenths ahead of Piastri. The Alpine's very much second quickest now, or looking the part anyway, with Ferrari and Red Bull, the others that are competitive. Mercedes, the teams are starting to emerge with some ahead of others. Speaking of how things are emerging, this should be a comfortable one because we have new engines, new gearboxes in both cars this race weekend. We also have 3 new components, 3 upgraded components on the car. We'll also have an underfloor by our next race, and that should be helping to reestablish a bit of a gap over the rest of the field. For now, just 1.6 seconds ahead of Piastri, but we are. Porsche has gone through on the lead over Doohan. Of course, DRS now going to be a factor that's going to allow these two to swap back and forth a bit. As long as they don't make any mistakes, we should be good to go to stay at the head of this race route. Alpine actually has pulled away a bit from Leclerc, who's a couple seconds behind. So the 2 Alpines now are comfortably for that last podium spot in a head-to-head with that one, and we see a every lap the times are getting a little bit quicker, and it's generally the one behind because of the DRS boost. Albon, Bottas, Schumacher, first to stop. Those guys all started on the mediums. I think most teams are all going to be opting for a 2-stopper here. There might be 1 or 2 brave souls who go for a 1-stopper, but the drop-off is quite dramatic. Doesn't support it very well. But at 25 seconds ahead, we now have the advantage of a pit stop. 2 Alpines still running. They're still there. And we're at lap 22 of 57, so we were nearly halfway. We're also at 55%. Let's see why that 2-stopper is necessary. Pit window entered. We'll have to stagger. We won't want to go back-to-back on this one. So somebody's going to get to go first. And I suppose we'll do whoever's ahead. They're both on 51%. Porsche comes back out a ways back. Doohan is catching up to Latifi really quick. Still a huge advantage over Norris. Piastri's already pit. And now Doohan down pit road. Gap at 2.4, so no, they are not in DRS range any longer, and we've nearly caught back up to Latifi already. Piastri and Norris 6 seconds apart. Did we not see a pit stop? No, we did. Piastri pit much earlier, so he came out ahead. The undercut working pretty well here. Again, we're seeing pretty dramatic fall off in speeds. Latifi's been lapped, by the way. It's gotten a little closer. And just about close enough, I think, to start getting a good toe down the straights. Yeah, now he's only 1.4 behind. He does seem to be picking up a toe. Heads down pit road. How will his time compare? Will he get back in touching distance of his teammate? 2.644 this time. He's about a tenth of a second faster on his stop than Pourchaire. Comes out just ahead of, I think that's the Haas. Down to 13 cars on the lead lap. 58 seconds ahead of Norris. 2.6 seconds behind Pourchaire. Again, the undercut. That one lap sooner gives a little bit of an advantage to Pourchaire. And he pulls away a little bit again. Gains about a second. But this time, that tenth of a second on the stop itself goes the other way around, where he gets a little bit closer. So he doesn't actually lose as much. McLaren peels off ahead of us. Gives us some good space. New fastest laps. I think these will exchange over the next few laps and then probably hold for the remainder. Norris pits. Piastri takes over P3. And we're a minute ahead and safety car's coming out. And it's too late to pit. And it's Pourchaire into the wall. Pourchaire has crashed and is out of the race.
It's a crash. Here's the replay.
Comfortable P1. We haven't pushed for a moment all race long. No pressure whatsoever. We've got 90s in all the meaningful areas and braking. He's got a 90 rating. No one has done anything all race. They've been racing each other head to head and no issues, not one. And Pourchaire falls asleep from the race lead, takes himself out of the race.
Let's take a look at the replay.
See it one more time here. Just turn one, just locks up. Plenty of runoff room in turn one. But that is a serious mistake to hit the wall from there. That's not minor. And now it bunches up the field. So we go from a minute ahead to totally bunched up. That's just ridiculous. We were down to 11 cars on the lead lap, but with the safety car, everyone rejoins. They were able to come through in two groups and get back on the lead lap, but you can see they never regained contact. So we've got 10 cars chasing us. Can we pull away from Piastri? Just a handful of laps left. This is going to allow Doohan to close back in on Pourchaire quite a bit in the championship, as Pourchaire has been pretty comfortably ahead. It's lap 54. It's our first DNF, I think, of the season. Like I said last time, that 1-3 finish, I think, was the first time we didn't have a 1-2 finish, and we've got a yellow in Sector 1. It's not Doohan, though.
Yellow ahead.
It's not Doohan.
Copy.
Schumacher with crash.
Let's see what happened there.
Turn 13.
Now just focus on the Haas.
Today, Doohan doesn't put a foot wrong, except for that simple fact that he was outdriven by Pourchaire all race. Had slipped to about 3 seconds behind him. And a lot of that came down to hitting a lap apart as they'd been alternating. Pourchaire just happened to be the one who was ahead at the time. But then Pourchaire makes his first mistake of... It's not his first mistake. His second mistake of the year, I think. And is out of the race just like that. Just like that. We haven't seen mistakes from drivers at all in this race, but man, oh man, Pourchaire under no pressure whatsoever. Out of the race. Doohan takes the win, though. 9 seconds in the end over the Alpines. Alpine, right now, clear second best. Gap not only closes, but the Drivers' Championship changes hands with those 26 points for Jack Do, and Pourchaire at 96 is 7 points behind, not being challenged by anybody else. I mean, we're over 100 points ahead still. We actually lost some ground to Alpine that time. Alpine has overtaken Red Bull. They both sit on 90 points now. So there you go. Alpine into P2, sort of, in the Constructors. 3 podiums. I think it's all the last 3 races. Red Bull, just 2 podiums. But of course, we have occupied 2 of those spots every race until now. We occupied just 1 in this race. Big mistake there. That's 5 rounds in the bag. We've got a lot to go. 17 more to happen. And with those 17, yeah, it's going to be tricky trying to get 3 per race in. It's hard to get 2 when something happens. Both of these races, something happened and slowed us down. Of course, this race, it happened late, so we were still able to get very quickly through this one. But the last race, with an early mistake, slowed it down. So if it's comfortable, if it's smooth, I can see us getting 3 races in no problem within an episode. It's hard otherwise. And we don't know that this gap is going to stay like this because we're already to the point of diminishing returns. Not like past few seasons, but definitely starting to get diminished returns. Others, they're going to make rapid progress, and they're going to close that gap on us with each of their upgrades versus our upgrades. So at some point we might see a bigger challenge and not just ride off into the sunset. It's hard to tell how quickly I'm going to manage to get through this season, but we'll try to do what we can with mere weeks until the release of F1 Manager 23. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there, and bye for now.